Wow. Welcome everybody. Sivulu Watobi is here. On this technique, on this scenario, on this episode, right? I want you to pay attention. And this talk about how to locate your opponent's weak point. So it is quite easy to locate your opponent's weak point. So no matter how expert or how powerful your opponent may be, you are going to notice your opponent's weak point because everybody has his own weak point, right. So now if your opponent stand like this, so for you to locate your opponent's weak point, this is not your opponent's weak point. Everywhere that your opponent open for you is not your weak point. If you are a Wing Chun practitioner, right, so you open where your opponent have already closed in Wing Chun. So that is your opponent weak point. So like this, if I want to go for my opponent feet like this, my opponent is going to see me coming, and my opponent is going to deflect my punch like that. So now that is why sometimes we usually set a trap for our opponent by letting our opponent be the first person to punch. So right, so if I stand like this and I move close, a little bit close to my opponent, that's going to prompt my opponent to punch me like this. So I open. This is now, without this hand coming out, this is a very difficult place for me to go, because if I want to go for that, so my opponent is going to quickly see me coming and is going to deflect my punch, right? So, and if I decide that, if I think that this place is my opponent's weak point, and I go straight to that, my opponent can easily set that place as a trap for me also, because your opponent may be an expert user of his own technique, right? And the place that you see as a easy place, as a weak point for you, may be a trap for you. So as a Wing Chun practitioner, so you open where your opponent have already closed and to apply your opponent. That is why we force our opponent to be the first person to punch, right? So if you go like this, so as you can see, and now it is very easier for me now to go for my opponent face. But if I go without my opponent punch like this, so my opponent can easily secure his face like that. So that is that about that. But in case I want to be the first person, maybe there are too many, so Wing Chun usually go for kick. So we usually go for kick to destabilize our opponent, right? So like this, so I increase that distance between me and my opponent, the opponent that is at my that stand for in front of me. So I use that kick to push him away so that I can increase that distance. So now my opponent at the back may be the next target, right? I can easily relate with him with my kick also. So but if my opponent is too close to me, right, so and he is the first person to punch me, so I have to go for where my opponent have already closed, right? So just go like this. So even if my opponent use 1 2, so I easily open his face like that and punch him. So that is how to locate your opponent weak point in Wing Chun. If you are a Wing Chun practitioner, right? So you just pay attention and stay calm. So force your opponent to be the first person to punch you. But in case that distance is too close and your opponent is wasting your time and you want to be the first person to punch, so we do two things at the same time. So if I'm punching, if I be the first person to punch, so I have to position my opponent, that I have to position my mind that my opponent set that place as a trap for me. So if at all that place is the weak point of my opponent, so because if I punch like this, my opponent can at the same time secure that and punch me, or my opponent can easily even go for my face, right? So like this. So, and you don't want that to happen. So that is why you have to do two things at the same time. So if you want to go for that, so you have to prepare your guide, right? So like this. So as you can see, I apply and I relate with my opponent with my elbow, right? So to defeat that punch, right? So as I go like this, so I quickly go with my elbow, right? So if I go like this, go here at the same time, or you go like this, so you go like this. So because as I go like this, even if this hand is the first hand my opponent want to use, my opponent said this place has a trap for me, and this hand is first hand my opponent want to use, my hand right here is going to deflect this hand and punch him right here and even go for my opponent face easily. So even, and Another thing is that if my opponent go for this, if this hand is the first hand, like I said, go right here, so this hand is going to relate with my opponent's hand, so and I will be able to redirect that force right here. So because applying I use my follow up plan, I use my backup plan to attack my opponent. So you don't just go there because your opponent can set the trap for you. If you are going straight to your opponent, to the place that you see on your opponent, that is the weak point of your opponent. So that place may not be your opponent's weak point. He may open that place for you as a trap, and that is going to it's going to make you ugly if you fall that for that trap. So that's that about that. So I hope you can see this clearly and you can understand it. But for you to be able to understand this technique right correctly, and if you want to know more about this technique and this information, join my personal line training, in which I'm going to be teaching you everything step by step in a way that you are going to become expert and you are not going to forget anything. So, and for you to now fight your opponent or to defeat any attack of your opponent is very easier, and it's going to be like you are just playing. So that is that about that. So hit me up at the comment section if you want to join my personal line training, and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well if this time is the first time you are watching my YouTube video. And if you have any question, ask me at the comment section. I'm ready to answer your question. Thank you. I keep on training. Peace and out.